Jaden Daniels is going to be missed. How much? Well, that's the question. That's the reason we've got Carter here from Power Hour LSU, Power Hour SEC as well. We'll talk to Carter and find out about some of his other initiatives here covering football top to bottom across our great nation. Carter, how you doing today?
It's spring football, Mark. You know, this is one thing where the NFL has over college. It's how much more tight their offseason is. And now with signing day and NIL and all of it, it just seems the college football calendar is kind of just all over the place. And what's very interesting, Mark, is while all these things are going on, actual football is being practiced across SEC teams in the Southeastern Conference, right? Spring football is underway, and there's no shortage of storylines with the Garrett Nussmeier era getting ready to kick off.
That's it. That's it right there. And people do still get excited about spring football, but yeah, our attention is divided in so many ways as college football fans toward all the realignment rumors, toward NIL, toward the transfer portal, that spring football doesn't have that cachet like, wow, this is everything. Let's read those reports from spring practice and find out who might have tweaked an ankle today. But we will start with Garrett Nussmeier because we saw him on the big stage against Wisconsin. Excellent performance there. And your thoughts about, we've heard your evaluation a number of times of what you expect out of him. He's obviously had to step in meaningful games, meaningful snaps, Auburn in particular recently. But in terms of also how the offense will change with just a much different player at that position.
Yeah, so the one thing that's interesting, you look at the guys out west, the Vegas guys, have Garrett Nussmeier, the third best Heisman odds, and you look at the last couple of Heisman Trophy winners, Mark, it's been Caleb Williams, who was high on the Heisman odds, and Jaden Daniels. You know, as magical as Jaden Daniels' season was, he was still second best Heisman odds going into next season. So if you're an LSU fan, that obviously makes you very excited with Garrett having so much hype going into next year. And he is a real deal. Like him and obviously Jaden are two completely different types of quarterback. Garrett just really doesn't run at all. And Jaden is arguably the best runner we've ever seen in college football history at the quarterback position, along with Michael Vick and obviously Lamar and so on and so on. So Garrett Nussmeier, of course, this will be, Mark, the most I say questionable, but it's not quite questionable, but it's the most mysterious wide receiver room LSU's had in quite some time. You know, you look historically, more often than not, LSU has a bona fide first-round draft prospect type of wide receiver in every single room going into the season. There is no Malik Neighbors going into next year. There is no Kayshawn going into next year, but Mark, I think Kyron Lacy is a real deal. When you really break down, you take out his drop issues, Kyron Lacy is a very special wide receiver prospect. I don't like to use that word special a whole lot, but if you actually look at his route running, you look at his blocking, he is a total package receiver if he can limit the drops. And then obviously the next two receivers are the transfers. CJ Daniels coming in from Liberty and Thomas coming in from Mississippi State, who I love a lot, Xavion Thomas. So this wide receiver room is still going to be loaded. And what's very fascinating, Mark, is Brian Kelly has hammered home to the media how much more he wants to get better at running the football. One minor story, Mark, with LSU last year was the running back room faded because the offense became so much of Jaden Daniels just dropping back and running or throwing. They didn't need running backs to run the football well at all. Now you will need it because you don't have the running game from Garrett Nussmeier. So the running back room, which is very thin this spring, is going to have to step up.
Yeah, we know Logan Diggs is going to stay in conference, play for Ole Miss.
Yeah.
When you look at the rest of this group, a lot of guys that are coming back, Josh Williams comes to mind. Your thoughts about how they may fit together, who does what well, and is there hope that this is going to be a LSU running game that we're accustomed to?
Yeah, so Caleb Jackson is probably the most hyped prospect since Leonard Fournette when it comes to the LSU running back room. You know, like Leonard in his true freshman season, Caleb Jackson had a few truck stick highlights that made its rounds, not just in the SEC, but all of college football. So he's going to be the lead back. Obviously, during spring, they never like to really run Josh Williams because of his injury history. Trey Holly's going through some legal stuff. And then obviously the most hyped offensive recruit. And this also, Mark, I do my own grades on all the prospects coming in. My number one prospect is Caden Durham, right? A top 100 4-star freshman who is a track and field superstar. And Mark, he is one of the most productive Texas high school football running backs of all time. And he did it at Duncanville, one of the best programs in an offense that is loaded with other 4 and 5 stars. And he was the best player on that offense. So Caden Durham's going to come in, and obviously he's running track right now, so he'll come in later this offseason. But he is a very special prospect, and I think he will get playing time right away.
And so, yeah, the situation that you outlined with Jaden Daniels playing quarterback is unlike anything that I can remember, because you mentioned Lamar Jackson and Michael Vick, who I would argue had more wiggle and more dynamic plays in the running game. But Jaden Daniels, to your point, might be the most effective runner at the quarterback position in the history of college football. And then you mirror that together with what they did at running back. Those other quarterbacks did not take the top running back completely out of the game. They had top rushers that ran for 500-800 yards, whatever the figures were. But Jaden Daniels just was a one-man show. And now they got to kind of reinstitute a traditional running game with a much different quarterback. It's just a crazy transformation.
Yeah, and this is where it gets very fascinating. I'll say this for the end, Mark. The best position group is the offensive line for LSU, right? So this is why they feel the running game can get better, is this offensive line with Will Campbell and Emory Jones, both of which could go in the first round of next year's NFL draft. Pro Football Focus has Will Campbell as the number 1 offensive tackle returning and Emory Jones as the number 9 offensive tackle returning. I truly do believe this offensive tackle duo, along with this entire offensive line, could be very special. The only position they have to sort out is center, right? And they believe DJ Chester is probably going to win that job. And he was a top 100 recruit coming out of high school. So the offensive line is going to be really special next year, Mark. It's going to give Garrett Nussmeier a lot of time back there to find open receivers. And LSU's going to have a new offensive play caller next year with Joe Sloan. So Joe is very well regarded at LSU, not only as a play caller, but as a recruiter. He's got the best high school football recruit in the history of LSU football, and Bryce Underwood committed to 2025 5-star quarterback. So Sloan as a play caller, we'll see how he does next season. But so far, the early returns in the Wisconsin game are pretty good.
And Mason Taylor's still around?
Yeah, and that's going to be something else. Mason Taylor, the son of obviously Jason Taylor, is a big-time tight end, right? This is a guy who was one of the best blocking tight ends in the SEC last year. And as a receiver, he's pretty serviceable. He's not so much deadly after the catch like other receivers on this team, but he's very reliable. He runs great routes. So I think Mason Taylor, an unbelievable athlete as well, will be a great add. And you look at another recruit that they have coming in, Trades Green, a top 100 4-star tight end who actually slid into some rankings as a 5-star. This is a young man who will come in later this offseason and hopefully provide LSU some opportunities to run some 12 personnel, which is 2 tight end sets, and that could take the LSU offense to another level as well.
Carter, I see LSU pretty much in that 7 to 10 range in the national rankings, regardless of who it is. They seem to be pretty consistent with that. Are you on board at this point?
Yeah, I think this team needs to make the college football playoff. And obviously we didn't talk too much about the defense. That's going to be by far the bigger question mark. But LSU poured more money into any coaching staff that you'll ever see on the defensive side of the football to get the absolute most highly ranked coaches across the board. Obviously getting Bo Davis from Texas, Kevin Peoples from Missouri, and Blake Baker from Missouri. And they also bring back Corey Raymond, who is the most popular position coach in LSU history to coach the defensive backs. The defensive side of the football is where a lot of the questions are going to be. They think the offensive side of the football will be fine, even though Garrett Nussmeier is obviously replacing one of the best college football quarterbacks ever. So defensively, that's where most of the questions will be, Mark, and hopefully LSU will be able to answer those questions.
And if Blake Baker can replicate the Missouri defensive numbers there at LSU this year, I think everybody will be good with that. And we'll hopefully get you back on here to break down the personnel on that side of the ball. Carter, you've been looking at some NFL as well as what you do with the SEC and LSU.
Yeah, so Power Hour NFL, please go subscribe to that. Mark, you know the YouTube stuff is so weird. I had some videos really pop off, but I wasn't able to monetize it because I'm not at 1,000 subscribers. So please go subscribe, Power Hour NFL. That's all you got to do is type that in and hit the subscribe button. And I'll never ask any NFL-related questions on the college football channel because I do like to separate the two. What I will include, though, at the end, Mark, was the NFL Combine was very profitable for the LSU prospects, in particular, Brian Thomas Jr. So we'll see. I mean, I think he locked in a first-round draft pick, and LSU should have 3 first-round draft picks. But, Mark, just to give you a little behind the scenes here, I know you cover all of college football, and you have a lot of Michigan fans. I've been told for months, okay, that J.J. McCarthy would be selected in the NFL draft before Jaden Daniels, okay? And as time has moved on, Mark, I'm starting to really believe it. I've seen more mocks, more people that were at the Combine who have sources and all of that. I'm not some masterful source guy, but this was someone that I trust. It's been in the NFL a long time. And he said, do not be shocked if it happened. And there is a growing piece of me that a team will make that mistake and take J.J. McCarthy over Jaden Daniels, even though I think J.J. could be a good NFL quarterback. So that's just one thing I've been hearing, and I think that would be so fascinating if a team were to do something that drastic.
And Carter, we're still waiting on both players' pro days, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and that's a funny thing. You know, Jaden didn't do anything this past weekend, and part of me is thinking, well, is the NFL trying to punish him because he didn't work out this past weekend? But it's really up in the air. I feel like Caleb Williams is going to be the number 1 guy, but I think after that, it's going to be the most circus NFL draft we've seen because of how fascinating these quarterback prospects are. I think Drake May could be a good pro. I think J.J. McCarthy could be a good pro. I just would not make the mistake of passing up on what could be the next Lamar Jackson in the NFL and Jaden Daniels. I don't believe that would be a smart move. And I understand I got a Joe Burrow painting in the background. I got a Jaden Daniels bobblehead right over here. I know that's what a lot of your neutral viewers would say, but I really do think Jaden Daniels will be a big-time NFL quarterback, and I think it'd be stupid to not select him at least 2nd overall. Hell, I'd take him 1st overall. But we'll see what happens.
So is the separation elite athleticism in the open field and in the pocket, navigating the pocket, or is it arm skill?
Yeah, so McCarthy has got a very underrated arm. If you actually go look at like the mile per hour ratings they did this weekend, I think only Joe Milton beat out J.J. McCarthy, and we know Joe Milton's arm is the best arm we may have ever seen at any level. One thing that is interesting, Mark, is NFL teams know that Jaden Daniels last year shouldn't have been playing, right? Because he got the extra year because of the COVID year. So, you know, he was older basically and more experienced than pretty much everyone he played, while J.J. McCarthy was only a year 3 guy on a Michigan team that was very run game focused, very defensive focused. And of course, Jaden had to play in shootouts, right? You had to empty the clip every game because the defense wasn't stopping anyone. That's just some of the things that I've heard and just seen, but I just don't see a world where you're taking J.J. McCarthy over Jaden Daniels, but people smarter than me think that could happen, and we'll see. We'll see what happens.
To piggyback off your final comment there, you probably can't select 2 quarterbacks in big-time college football that were on opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of what they had to shoulder for their football teams than those 2.
Right, and that's something else, you know, because so there was a Mike Tannenbaum quote last week, and you know, for people that know, Mike Tannenbaum was an NFL GM. I don't think he was a good one. I think he's an idiot. He said plenty of bad, stupid stuff. I'd say it to his face. And he said this comment last week that if J.J. McCarthy was in the LSU offense, he would have done what Jaden Daniels did, which is asinine, right? It's just stupid. You know, Jaden Daniels is Jaden Daniels. He's 1-on-1. But There are people that truly do believe this. And, there's just a lot of questions with McCarthy as an NFL quarterback. And it is also interesting because there needs to be like a few of these free agent quarterback dominoes, right? Like Minnesota, is Kirk Cousins really going to leave Minnesota? What's Justin Fields going to do? There's so many different factors that go into it. I still, in my heart of hearts, thinks Jaden Daniels is going to be a top 3 pick. But I'm just telling it, like I have tweets months ago, Mark, saying that do not be shocked if JJ McCarthy goes ahead of Jaden Daniels. And this was when JJ McCarthy was in like the 20s and 30s, right? So I've been told this for a long time. And now I see people like Brett Coleman, who's big time NFL reporter. He's at the combine. He released his first mock draft, and he has JJ McCarthy going ahead of Jaden Daniels. I'm just sharing what I've been told for a while now. I don't think that actually will happen, but now I'm really starting to believe it, and it would be dumb. I'm just telling you, pass up on Jaden Daniels at your will, NFL teams, and you will be punished.
Yeah. So are there any particular fits at the top of the board that you like better for either one of those players?
Yeah. So as much as LSU fans would hate me to say this, okay, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. All right, as you know, LSU fans are mostly Saints fans. It's not quite an apple to apple thing. Mark, what's crazy is there are a lot of Saints fans that are Alabama fans, right? Because of how NFL teams are located in the Southeast. So it's not 100% Saints fans or 100% LSU fans. I say that because a lot of LSU fans hate the Falcons. A lot of Saints fans, of course, hate the Falcons. The best fit for a young quarterback is the Atlanta Falcons. They've got the best weapons to work with at the quarterback position. They just have not had a quarterback. Desmond Ridder is not an NFL level quarterback. I love that fit. That's a weak division. That's a young coaching staff. The Rams coaching staff coming over. We know what the Rams coaches have done with quarterbacks with Jared Goff and now Matthew Stafford. Whoever goes to Atlanta is going to be walking into a gold mine of young offensive talent. And I think that's where Jaden would be best served. So there is a piece of me, if I was in Jaden's camp and I started to slide down the board, Atlanta is a really good spot to land. That's an indoor stadium, so you don't have to deal with the elements. And you're going to be in a weaker NFC. So I think whichever quarterback ends up there, it could be Kirk Cousins. That's going to be a great fit because I think Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson can all play.
Power Hour NFL in
Yeah.
addition to LSU and SEC, but it's Power Hour NFL. Lock it in, get on over there right now. Just do it. Check it out. Give it a sub. Carter, appreciate you being here as always.
Thank you, Mark. We'll talk soon. Okay, buddy?